Да ведь нет, он тебе про себя и говорил, ты говорил, да, лох один только. Потому, да. And she's bad.
All right, let us begin, please. We're going to get started to stay on track for this morning. Don't forget, of course, that we have this exciting event next Tuesday, which is our second test. There will be your enthusiasm. There will be a review section for that. Indeed, 3 of them next Monday night, as we did last time. They'll be in room 207 of WLH again this Monday, 7, 8, and 9 respectively, and yours truly will be there. We'll also have Monday afternoon. If you want individual help, you can come to my office, and one of the TAs will be covering a run of about 4 or 5 hours there Monday afternoon, probably starting around 1 o'clock. And of course, I'll be sending you a prep sheet on this so that you will know how to prepare for this test, just as we prepared for the last test. The test itself will be very similar to the first test, except when we get to the listening pieces, then we will not be so much concentrating on individual isolated aspects of melody, rhythm, and harmony, but these broader questions of form. What is the form? Where are we in the form? That's the essence of the assignment there. We're working here with form, and it's very important. It brings, I think, my guess is in all of the listening that you've been doing, pop music, classical, whatever it is, how many, when you were listening, ever thought about form? Ever think about anything? Okay, one person I see raise their hand. Roger, maybe Roger raises his hand, but not too enthusiastically. Yeah, it's the kind of thing that you can do a lot of playing, listening to music. You could take, as my 17-year-old, maybe 17-year-old, maybe 12, 13 years of cello, and I could ask him, what form do we have, where are we in the form? And he wouldn't really know because he hasn't been exposed to that sort of thing. Well, it does help us. It's a whole dimension of listening that we can plug into, whether it's pop music and you're dealing with verse and chorus and bridge, or even, as we'll see today, ostinato in pop music, or in classical music, you plug in the form. Now, what are the 6 forms that we are going to be plugging in here? Somebody run us through our checklist. Roger, get us started, please. Oh, yeah, you can say one, and then you can pass the baton. Okay, Sonata Allegro, the most difficult, the biggest one. We spent the most time with that. What else? Chris? Fugue, we spent a lot of time with that. Fairly difficult. Daniel? Rondo, a little bit easier in the sense that you've got this one theme that kind of bludgeons you. You get a theme, then you get something else. And that theme comes back, and then probably something else yet again. And that theme comes back, and then something else again. And then theme, and so on. So you get the object, and then a lot of contrast, but the object keeps coming back. What else? Did we mention Chelsea? I'm sorry. Ternary form, yeah, that may be the easiest, kind of just the A, B, A idea. And we're missing one, I think. Yeah. Theme and variations. Your name, please? I'm sorry? Kristen. Okay, thanks very much, Kristen. Theme and variations is the last one. When you go to a concert, sometimes you can pick up a program, and here is a cover for a program that's going to serve as the makeup for our concert for our class. It's next Saturday, a week from Saturday. Jonathan Edwards Orchestra is going to be performing at the hotel. And they'll be doing the Beethoven 8th Symphony, And when you go there, you're going to have 4 movements in the Beethoven 8th Symphony. What's a good guess as to what form the first movement's going to be in? Sonata Allegro, okay? Sonata Allegro. Second movement, it could be in a number of different forms. What's a good guess for what the form of the third movement will be? Ternary form. It's going to be some kind of minuet or scherzo. I think in this case, scherzo, trio, scherzo, that idea. Ternary form usually is the third movement of these 4 movement symphony. And then the last movement, well, we'll have to sort of come to terms with that, figure that one out on the fly. And that's what we'll be doing in our test on Tuesday, although it will be a slow, sort of lento fly there. We'll be going through it much more slowly than just one pass. So sometimes when listening, you've got to hear the music and make some kind of educated determination as to what the form is, and then you kind of, as I say, drop this template of that particular form down in your mind, and then filter the music thereafter through that model, be it the model of Sonata Allegro, or the model of Fugue, or the model of Rondo. You kind of hear the piece in that form thereafter. Questions about that? All right, if not, let's proceed with one final form today, which is ostinato. That's our 6th form. We haven't been introduced to that. We're going to do ostinato. But before we get to that, I want to recap one thing having to do with theme and variation form, because it allows us to bring some of the other things that we've been talking about, so it's culminating listening experience. And that is the finale of Beethoven's Heroica Symphony. Anybody know why it's called the Heroica Symphony? Who's the hero that's referenced there? Caroline? Napoleon, right. So Beethoven was working on the symphony. Napoleon was a hero. Then he gets word from Paris. Napoleon has had himself crowned emperor. He thinks, oh my God, Napoleon's just a tyrant like all the rest of them. So he's furious, and he scratches out on his score. And when you get to the Beethoven chapter of your textbook, look there. There's a photograph of the cover of the Heroica Symphony. And you can see the big hole where Beethoven, with his knife, scratched out Napoleon's name, and then later on he goes on to simply identify that as Symphony for a Hero, Symphony for a Hero, the Heroica Symphony. So that's what we mean by that particular hero originally was to be Napoleon. So when we finish this exercise, when you finish this course, you will have actually been exposed to a number of Beethoven symphonies. We're talking about number 3 here. We opened with number 5. On the concert a week from Saturday, you have Beethoven 8. And those of you that went to the preceding concert are not barred from attending the one on the 1st of November. You too can get in the door there, so you might want to go to that at 7:30 in the Bell Chapel, November 1st. And the concert the other night, we had Beethoven 6, so you will have been exposed to 4 Beethoven symphonies here in this course. So that's pretty good. Great. All right, so let's talk about the finale here. And it's based on, it's kind of fun, it's actually more complex than we ever do in the test, but it's fun to work through it. It's based on 2 themes. So this is a set of variations using 2 themes. Beethoven liked to do this. He did this in the slow movement of, what's What's that? What symphony is that? Does anyone remember? Yeah, it was the Beethoven 6 that we had at the concert the other night with the woodwinds and all that.
Consequences. The
second, the B idea, if you will, of the two themes. So there, in the slow movement of Beethoven's Sixth Symphony, we have a double variation. And what we mean by double variation is simply that there are two themes in play. So here we have the two themes. One, the way it's constructed here, is in the treble. Sonata allegro, okay? Sonata allegro. Second movement, it could be in a number of different forms. What's a good guess for what the form of the third movement will be? Ternary form. It's going to be some kind of minuet or scherzo. I think in this case, scherzo, trio, scherzo, that idea. Ternary form usually is the third movement of these four-movement symphony. And then the last movement, well, we'll have to sort of come to terms with that, figure that one out on the fly. And that's what we'll be doing on our test on Tuesday, although it will be a slow, sort of lento fly there. We'll be going through it much more slowly than just one pass. So sometimes when listening, you've got to hear the music and make some kind of educated determination as to what the form is, and then you kind of, as I say, drop this template of that particular form down in your mind and then filter the music thereafter through that model, be it the model of Sonata Allegro or the model of Fugue or the model of Rondo. You kind of hear the piece in that form thereafter. Questions about that? All right, if not, let's proceed with one final form today, which is ostinato. That's our sixth form. We haven't been introduced to that. We're going to do ostinato. But before we get to that, I want to recap one thing having to do with theme and variation form, because it allows us to bring in some of the other things that we have been talking about. So it's a good culminating listening experience. And that is the finale of Beethoven's Heroica Symphony. Anybody know why it's called the Heroica Symphony? Who's the hero that's referenced there? Caroline? Napoleon, right. So Beethoven was working on the symphony. Napoleon was a hero. Then he gets word from Paris. Napoleon has had himself crowned emperor. He thinks, oh my God, Napoleon's just a tyrant like all the rest of them. So he's furious and he scratches out on his score. And when you get to the Beethoven chapter of your textbook, look there. There's a photograph of the cover of the Heroica Symphony. And you can see the big hole where Beethoven with his knife scratched out Napoleon's name, and then later on he goes on to simply identify that as Symphony for a Hero. Symphony for a Hero, the Heroica Symphony. So that's what we mean by that particular hero. So when we finish this exercise, when you finish this course, you will have actually been exposed to a number of Beethoven symphonies. We're talking about number 3 here. We opened with number 5. On the concert a week from Saturday, you have Beethoven 8, and those of you that went to the preceding concert are not barred to attend the one on the 1st of November. You too can get in the door there, so you might want to go to that, 7:30 in the Tel Chapel, November 1st. And the concert the other night, we had Beethoven 6, so you will have been exposed to 4 Beethoven symphonies here in this course. And that's pretty good for the beginning course. Good. All right, so let's talk about the finale here. And it's based on, it's kind of fun, it's actually more complex than we would ever do in a test, but it's fun to work through it. It's based on 2 themes. So this is a set of variations using 2 themes. Beethoven liked to do this. He did this in a slow movement of, what's that? What symphony is that? Yeah, it was the Beethoven 6 that we had at the concert the other night. Second, the B idea, if you will, of the 2 themes. So there, in the slow movement of Beethoven's 6th Symphony, we have a double variation. And what we mean by double variation is simply that there are 2 themes in play. So here we have the 2 themes. One, the way he's constructed here, is in the treble. That's theme number one. Here's theme number two. So let's listen to some of this. It's going to start out with just a little bit of a curtain raiser. So I have a curtain raiser, and then one of the themes will come in. Which one does Beethoven start with? Okay, up goes the curtain. Repeat. Continue. Repeat. Okay, we're going to stop it there. So which theme did he choose to work with here at the outset? Anybody know, Daniel? Yeah, the bass theme. And how was it being played? Was it pizzicato? Bum, 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 bum. So it was the bass theme. All right. So that's, in a sense, we'll say, call that variation one. Let's go on with variation two here. Which theme does he choose to use at this point? Repeat. And repeat. Okay, so which theme is he using there? One or two? Yeah, eVGENIY says two. And it was still the bass theme. It was a little bit harder to hear this time because it was being covered up above by some counterpoint. So we've got the theme, we've got counterpoint against it. Let's go on to variation number three. We'll see what happens. Which one here? Repeat. Go on. And repeat. So which theme this time? One or two? Still two. But he's moved it up into the first violin. He's moved it up higher, and he's got more sort of fast running counterpoint against it. Let's go on to the next. We've got to get number one at some point. Hooray. Stop it there, and let's go back to that particular variation, if you will, please. I think it's at 154. What was the solo instrument there, and how did he orchestrate this? Well, the first statement of this first theme, he assigned it to a solo instrument. Then, in the repeat, he had the strings take it over. Then, that solo instrument came back, and then on the repeat, the strings took it over again. So it's an interesting use of orchestration here. Let's listen to this variation again, and what is the solo instrument up on top? pause it there just for a second. So what's the solo instrument? Oboe, yeah. So there's an oboe penetrating up on high. Question out there, Patrick. Yeah, I wouldn't want to take that too far, though. This is sort of an isolated event here where you do have a call and a response. And it does happen just in this one variation, but it's going to be limited to this one variation. Whereas in a Bessie Smith blues tune, you would have that call and response idea carried on throughout the entire composition. It's a good point, though. I hadn't thought of it in those terms, but that's exactly. You got a call by the oboe, and then a repeat of that idea may be elaborated by the strings. So here we are up here, the solo oboe, and then we are going to have the response now by the string. So let's listen to that. Okay, we're going to pause it here just for a second. Now something interesting happens. When we were dealing with sonata allegro form, we said that there were 4 functional types. And this, it really isn't just limited to sonata allegro form. There are functional types in all kinds of music. When you go to a movie, a cinema, a film, for example, oftentimes at the end of the scene, they will have a fade out. You know, and listen to the fade out music. There's kind of transition music in film music a lot of times. Then maybe we get a new scene and it's very prominently displayed. Well, maybe we get thematic music at that particular point. So this idea of theme and transition, even development, can occur in all different kinds of music and all different kinds of contexts. But just to review that idea, we have thematic music, we have transitional music, we have developmental music, and again, it doesn't have to be limited to sonata allegro form. We saw developmental music in a section of the fugue called what? Do you remember what we called that section of the fugue that was so developmental, Thaddeus? The episode. So there in the episode, and we get ending eventual stuff virtually in every kind of music. So it's not limited just to sonata allegro form. But question here is, what is Beethoven writing at this particular point? Here we are in theme and variations, but I think we're referencing one of the 4 functional types of music in this next section. So what functional type is it? Okay, so what was that we just heard? What did you get? Daniel? A transition. Yeah, he's just taking it very simply from point A to point B. And maybe just a little bit idea of a cadence transition usually, and with a couple final sounding chords there. Yeah. So that's a transition, and we've moved. And we've moved from here, a major key. What would you imagine we're going to move to? A minor key, and it's probably, again, although we don't hear it, we don't hear it, it's probably going to be the relative minor, because it's just simple structurally to operate that way. So let's listen now to the next variation here. But something very interesting happens. He's referencing another form. He's incorporating another form in the composition as a variation. So what is the other form now? So what form is he referencing? Michael? Got it right today, okay. A fugue, yeah. And we, in just one hearing, was it'd be hard to really know what voices would bring it in, but I'll just tell you, generally what he was doing there was starting up on the top. Okay, and then gradually coming down in terms of range. So the soprano, alto, tenor, and then bass. And the bass did something interesting, which sort of reinforces a point we had the other day. The fugue subject that he's working with, which, by the way, so he's kind of varying that melody number one. Kind of varying that melody. But when it gets to the bass, it does something interesting. Why is that interesting? What process do we have at work there that we talked about last time with regard to fugue? Anybody remember that? Inversion. And I don't think I made that point clearly enough the other day. But anytime you have, or you could have going up a minor third and then down a second. You could go down a minor third and then up a second. So you're just turning the intervals and it's kind of a mirror image there. So here Beethoven uses a little bit of inversion. So in the middle of this theme and variation movement, he inserts a fugue. And a fugue inserted inside another form is called a fugato. So here, as the fourth, I think, fifth variation of this last movement, he inserts a fugato. Let's skip, if you would please, into all the way up to about 800. We're going to listen to one final variation here, and at this point, we want to concentrate on the duration of the melody. We were starting out, ya da da dum ba dum ba dum da dum bum bum. 1, 2, 1, 2. And that's that. What's Beethoven doing here? Almost there. That's a long way to go. Here we go. Pause it there just for a second. So what's he done here to his melody, to the duration of his melody? It's now, can you express it? If we come yum bum 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 bum, and now we go bum 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 bum. What's he doing? Now, come on, I just hear a small little worry about that. Somebody, let's choose somebody who's pretty confident. That person will yell it out. Marcus? I'm sorry, I didn't hear that. That's the psychological effect of retardando, slowing it down, giving you a sense you're getting to the end. But once again, technically, that's not exactly what he's doing. He's giving that effect by doing something. That is? Right. He's changing the note values. He's simply doubling the note values. And when we do that in music, we call that augmentation. Sometimes when we get to Hector Berlioz, we'll see diminution. To give a sense of urgency to the music, you can chop them all in half. Well, here he's getting toward the end. He wants this grand, broad effect. He's brought in the brasses. It's showtime. So what does he do? He doubles all of the note values in theme number 1. So let's continue, please. And then he sort of fades out and adds a little coda at that point. But that's the way we end the third symphony, the Heroica symphony of Beethoven. So it's an interesting piece because it's got fugato in there, it's got sections that sound like transition out of sonata allegro form, and he's working with 2 themes. Questions about that before we move on? All right, so let's put that behind us now and go on to talk about Ospinato 4. Once again, we've been through this many times, but what is an ostinato? Okay, I know it's embarrassing. It's something that happens again and again and again. This sort of obsessive compulsive disorder applied to music, okay? Obsessive compulsive disorder applied to music. The most famous example of this is probably the Bolero of Maurice Ravel. So we put that up on the board here as our first ostinato piece, 1928, piece in the 20th century. It's ostinato in every way, in the sense that the melody keeps repeating over and over again for 14 minutes. The rhythm, that keeps going for 14 minutes and change, depending on the tempo of the conductor. And when we did this, remember, you guys were providing the bass harmony, bum, 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 bum. That's all you do for 14 minutes and 30 seconds. So every aspect of that, melody, rhythm, and harmony, is controlled by this ostinato procedure. And it's example, as mentioned, from the 20th century. But the heyday of ostinato form, well, really in two periods in the history of music. One in the Baroque period, and two right now. Because when you start listening to your pop music, go out there and listen to those basses and start charting those basses and see how repetitious they are. When Frederick Evans brought in that piece